Welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk Dog Business. Today we are going in open, real, raw, everything about fear and how it really holds you back in your business. So today we thought we would talk a bit about fear and how much it can hinder and hold you back, not only in your business, but in your life as well. So I want to explore a little bit with you, Vic, on when you started your journey into, I don't know, like creating a better business, a better life and all that stuff and going into this whole other random world. What things kept creeping up for you?
Intermittently, I had a few things. So the biggest thing was probably that I couldn't help everybody because everybody wouldn't be accessible to me anymore. So I feel like because I provided that many different activities and services and varying price points, I mean, they weren't all very drastically different, but I sort of had something for everyone.
Yeah.
And so then when I started doing things in a bit more simplified, it was like streamlining everything and it was all just very simple, but the prices were elevated. I just thought, well, there's all these people then that are not going to be able to come to me and they're going to go to other people. And what if those other people don't do a very good job? And I felt the guilt of that, of not being able to retain those clients. So that was probably the big thing, is that immediately I'm alienating some people because they physically can't do it.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that feeling was there for quite a while, hence offering all of those different things.
Yeah, it was there. And I was always the sort of person that wanted to do better and keep evolving my business. I was never somebody who just kept offering the same things. Some of that was a needs must thing. When I left a franchise, I had to then create my own course program. And so like I tried to do that better, first of all. Like I tried to tailor the content more to what clients wanted, as much as I knew how to do that back then. But I'd never done something so radically different. And then even though deep down I knew it was the right thing to do, like that fear of the safety and the like, this is what I know how to do better, crept back. It would almost like rise up a little bit and I'd try and push it back down again. And then I'd be like, yay, and then it would come back again. And so like when we talk about journeys with our clients and that it's an ongoing process, I think always, whenever you're, like when you've got a business, it's never just the job's done and you just coast. I don't think it should ever be like that. I think it should always be that you're trying to make it better and you're trying to improve things. But not only that, like you change and so your clients' needs change, but you will also change. And so there are lots of things now that I would never go back to how I did them before. But then there's sometimes I do try and kind of almost like revert back a stage.
Yeah.
Not all the way back down.
I know.
And you have to try and lift me back up again because it's just that hard wiring inside you, isn't it? And it's so protection. If there's any risk, you're like, oh, rabbit in headlights kind of feeling happens. And I know where it comes from in me. It comes like in my stomach and I can just feel it rising up. And I'm like, oh, trying to squish it back down again.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think fear manifests itself in such different ways. And so what would you say then for you, if you had to just say like one thing that was the scariest thing, like what's the commonality behind it? Like, is it letting down clients? Or does it come back to not earning enough money?
No, that's not the be all and end all for me. It wasn't. It was, I care what people think too much probably, or I did care about what people thought too much. And if I thought that someone went away from a conversation with me saying that I was out of their reach, I was too expensive, it wasn't worth it, it would really get to me. And so even though, again, I knew that it was the right thing and I knew that I was the value that I was going to give them was equal or above what they were going to give me, I still thought, what if that person tells everybody that I'm this like ridiculously expensive trainer who don't go and work with them because they like no one can afford her? And that's what I used to think. Like, why I cared, because I don't know that person. And the people who do work with me or worked with me then knew that it was, I hope they knew it was worth it. But it's just that kind of thing of that person's going to go away and they could potentially say all this stuff about me. That's what I think used to sit with me back then.
Yeah. So how do you think that impacted your business and your life, actually? Because they're not always as separate as we think they are.
No, it did put pressure on, because I thought, well, if that's what they think, then potentially the next person I speak to could think like that. So it was almost like my mindset was in a lower place because of that previous conversation that I might have had with somebody. And so over the time and over the years I've been doing this now, I've learned to just be more resilient with that and just keep my, like, everything higher and more. Yeah, I guess I'm sort of prepared for that now more, and it doesn't get to me like it did. I mean, it doesn't get to me at all now, but it was a really hard thing to try and keep burying away, and it would try and resurface.
Yeah.
And it would go in stages. It wouldn't be always there. It would kind of, I'd have like a really great session with a client, and the results would kind of just show how good the program approach is and how good that long-term relationship approach is. But then say my week was a little bit, not as great, and then I'd had a conversation with somebody who possibly said it was too expensive. That's all that what I'd think about then.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing how much it creeps in, isn't it? Because and I think it goes to show that you're never going to get rid of fear. It's a staple emotion that's going to be in you for life. It's supposed to be there to keep you safe. But if you don't get control over it will impact you massively. So we nearly didn't do this podcast, didn't we, because of fear? Mm-hmm. And there was a few things that were circling in that fear pit, I think. Our initial one was, oh God, we're actually putting our opinions out there.
Yeah.
And what happens if,
people don't like it?
We get a backlash from it. I think we actually squashed that quite quickly, though, surprisingly, because it's one thing I always thought I wouldn't like. I still don't think I'd like it, to be honest, but we got over that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then I think the next biggest fear surrounding that was the investment we've made in the production side of it and making sure that it is doing everything that we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And we nearly didn't do it, didn't we?
No, very nearly didn't do it.
And that surfaced with you having a breakdown.
Yep. I cried.
I had a little strop about it.
Yep.
I think I tore up the paperwork, didn't I? I was like, fine, forget it, we won't do it. Ripped up the paperwork.
We did rip up the paperwork.
It was like a proper
we had
little
to go
strop.
grovel for a new sheet of paper.
Yeah.
When we actually decided to do it.
Please, can we do it? But we had to talk about it, didn't we? Because we were like...
It was a proper therapy session. Well, it was a therapy session because somebody sat me down and talked me through what were the blockers. And
I know. I only went for a wee and then came back and you were in tears. I was like, what happened here? What on earth has gone on? But yeah, and you imagine if we'd have not gone ahead and done that, like we wouldn't be here.
There were lots of what ifs. What if we're rubbish? What if people don't like it? Yeah. What if it doesn't work? What if it's not worth the investment? Yeah. What if it doesn't bring us what we hope it will bring us? Yeah. So many what ifs came up. Yeah. And when that was a bit like batting, what's that game where you bat the...
Oh, the little like whack-a-mole thing.
Yeah, whack-a-mole thing. It was like that when one went down and you went, well, talk me through it. Another one would come back up and you were like, Jesus Christ, like trying to bash all these things down.
But, and do you know what though? Like it's so important to talk them out, even if you've not got a partner, because I think we're fortunate that we've set the business up with the two of us. But even if it's just you by yourself, like who can you go and turn to just have these type of conversations with? And this is where I think it's important, and we bang on about it a hell of a lot, but it's so important that you surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up, because if you then take those fears to somebody else that has got a similar mindset, well, they're going to validate your fears. They're 100% going to validate them, and they're not going to push you through it. And for me, I think it's always asking yourself that, where is that fear coming from? You need to identify it to see if it is a valid thing. And remember, it's a normal thing. It's a normal emotion that's going to crop up. But if it's showing up in a way that it did for us that weekend, where we're like, oh my God, like full on breakdown, like tantrums and tears and everything, for me, you know it's worth it when you're getting to that point.
Yeah, you know you want it.
Yeah.
And you're really trying to find a way past all of those blockers.
Yeah.
And if you didn't care about it, if you didn't want it, why would you get upset about it?
Yeah.
So it was definitely, I knew in my gut that we should be doing it, but I was like, but we can't do it. We can't afford it. No. It was all of that, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And the reality is we couldn't afford it.
No, we couldn't.
But we made it happen.
Yeah.
It was a substantial investment, and it was we made it happen because we knew we wanted it, and it just opens up conversations. So it's always about how can you push through that fear, because it will hold you back. So some of the other conversations we've been having over the last couple of weeks with our clients have been things like, so I suppose for a bit of context, we've had people going, I really want to get rid of some services. Deep down, if I'm being honest with myself, some of the things that I offer, I don't particularly want to be doing, but I'm scared to let them go.
Yeah.
Because
and
if
just for clarity, this is dog business owners, clients, not dog owner clients.
Yes. So the context around dog business owners wanting to get rid of some services that they potentially don't enjoy as much, but the fear of letting them go because currently they're bringing in some cash is so strong. It is so hardwired in people to want to let go.
When you look at your accounts, for those who offer services of a fairly low amount, so let's say for me it was like 80 quid course, people would sign up for an 80 quid course. So if you've got 6 people on that course and you potentially are going to sign up 15 to 20 of those a month, depending on how many of those you offer, it looks like from an accounts point of view, oh my God, look at all this income. And then as soon as you start charging more, you're obviously going to get less clients. And it looks like you haven't got as much coming in. So from that, even just that perspective of seeing the volume of your accounts reduce, you automatically just think, I've got nothing coming in. So actually, that's another one of my fears. Even though it's rationally stupid because the amount was higher, I'm not seeing as much going in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's so interesting because, again, everyone's got different fears and everybody looks at it differently. And I don't know if I ever had that fear of that example of looking at less numbers coming in, because actually the money bit was higher and the value I was giving was higher.
I knew all of that. I knew in my head it was that. But when I just looked at it, because I'm used to seeing like 2 pages of A4. Yes, I used to do it in a written book, my accounts. I had 2 pages of A4 on average a month of £10 here, £80 here, £20 here. I used to sell toys and I still sell harnesses now, but harnesses, toys, chews, and I felt like, oh my God, another sale, but sales of like 5-10 quid. Whereas now it's more like 1,000 to 1,500. I still couldn't get my head round that. It took me a little while. And I'm actually just looking back at that, not realising it was actually a thing until I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
It's really odd.
It is odd. So how else has fear kind of manifested in your business or even personal life, actually? Because I think it's all related. Fear pops up all the time and it will stop you from doing things.
Yeah, I guess it's that thing of when a client comes on board now, it's a bigger event. It's not as big as it used to be. It was like a massive event when I used to get my first paying clients that paid me a lot more. Now it's a lesser event because you just get used to it like that. But from my husband's point of view, he would be constantly asking me, so did you get that? Did you get that client that you were talking to earlier? And if it was a no, I was like, no. And he's like, oh, have you got any more lined up? And it was almost like that pressure of like, I had to give him the win. And when he got the win, he was like, oh, she's going to be okay this month then. So it was a bit of that as well. And Gareth, I know you'll be listening to this and you'll be laughing when I say this story, but it's part of that is pressure of trying to like do right by him as well. And make sure that I get those people in for him. But then we've talked about like that get energy and that fear of like, if you haven't got somebody in and you feel like you need to, your whole energy changes and then you desperately try. And this is where you try and sell yourself too much and you put too much across, sounding desperate. And I've learned that is not in the right place to be either. So you've got to get that right and just go, it'll be okay. It's fine. I know the people will come.
Yeah, that's really hard.
It is really hard.
That's a skill in itself and I think I'd be lying if I said I didn't fall into get energy every now and again. I think it's natural. It's normal. But yeah, that fear side of, oh God, where's the money coming from? But that's why it's so important to have a strategy behind your business and go, right, plan for it. Where is the money coming from? Because you need to know these things. You need to forecast it. You need to go, what's happening this month, what's happening for the next few months, because then when you can plan it and you can see what's happening, fear goes away a little bit because it teaches that lovely lizard part of your brain that, yep, it's fine. You can still eat, pay bills and live for the next few months. So I'm satisfied and we can work on that. But yeah.
And this is where that client loyalty thing comes in, because the more longer term clients you have, retention, that monthly kind of, even if you're not getting new clients all the time, you've got your existing clients that are keeping you going anyway. And so your best clients are always the ones that already work with you. And if you can keep them and make their experience amazing, they're going to keep working with you, aren't they? So you're going to have that kind of almost like, I don't want to say it because it's going to sound like I don't value that as much, but the clients that I'm working with long time, I value absolutely. But it's almost like that fallback thing of going, well, those clients are with me on a, potentially 6 month, 12-month basis.
Yeah.
And so it's not that desperation to keep finding new people then.
Yeah. No, it is. It's good. You've got to know it. You've got to know your numbers. That will put a lot of fear to one side. And then when you do have opportunities to invest in yourself, I'm not talking about dog knowledge CPD, although, there's a place for it, but God, you don't need it as often as we all spend it. It's not needed as much. I would always be an advocate for investing in your self-development a lot more. Like go and buy a book, or see if you can go to a course somewhere, or even like a little retreat of some shape or form. Do those type of investments, because they will be the ones that will see you change everything. And I think that's where fear creeps up again. So we've already mentioned how we felt when we did that podcast. I would be lying if I said that I didn't feel like that when we invested in the mastermind group that we're part of, because that was another hefty investment with two of us going in. And there's no guarantee as such as there with results from the end of it. You've got to go in and do the work, but it's the opportunity that it can present to you. So,
and I guess from your point of view, actually, here's a question for you. I went into that purely on your trust and your say-so. I had no idea about any of that.
I know you were like really easy on that one.
I was actually. So from your point of view, did you feel the pressure of, it's not just you going in, but it's me going in, and I need to make sure that I feel...
Yeah. So I'll set the scene a little bit then. So at that time, we were going through a remortgage, and my bills are quite hefty. It's a 400k mortgage. And at the time, we were in a 5-year fixed deal, and I think the mortgage was about 1,500 quid. So it's already like quite a chunk of money going out every month. Remortgage came up, and it's at the time when the interest rates are through the roof, like ridiculous amount. My company had gone limited within the last 12 months, which massively affected my application because they were saying you haven't got enough years as a limited company to be able to suggest that you're going to earn more than you did when you were a sole trader. So that caused a problem and a delay. The renovation we were doing on the house wasn't complete. So there was still a part of the house that was breeze blocked. It was all watertight and everything. And we had all the stuff to kind of finish it off, but we were remortgaging to ideally get some cash out, borrow a bit more so we could finish it. And then the Rick surveyor guy comes out and said that the house is uninhabitable. So they poo-pooed the mortgage and said we couldn't have it. And at this point, I am literally like in pure fear mode of, oh my fucking God, how on earth are we, what's going to happen here? I cried the most I've ever cried. I was thinking, I'm going to have to leave this house. We're going to have to sell it. And we're not going to get anywhere near the value that we want for it because it's not finished. I mean, and in the grand scheme of things, I was like, right, realistically, if we had to sell, we had to sell. I'd still have a house. I could downsize and potentially be mortgage free. So I was honestly looking at houses over in Norfolk, I think it was, just to like move completely out of area, change my whole life completely and force myself into that situation. But anyway, we managed to get through that. And honestly, this is the longest 6 months of my life. All that was going on. Then we got told we could have the mortgage, but then the mortgage is now going to be nearer $3,000 a month. And I'm like, oh my God, can we do that? So I either very cleverly or very stupidly, we figured out that if we borrowed a bit more, then technically I could keep some of that money in the bank. Let's not do the renovation immediately. And we'll keep that cash in the bank to pay the bills so that it takes the pressure off of having to bring in any money. So we did that. So we've now got a 3K mortgage. And then we blew all the cash doing the renovation because we was like, yay, we've got money. And now we're like, fuck, we've got no money again. So we're in the same situation, except my bills now with the mortgage and the childcare and everything else, they are honestly around $6,000 a month. Darren then took a new job. So he has gone from a 2.5K salary to 1,500 quid. All this happened, and then this mastermind opportunity came up, and I've been aware of it for a while, and I knew in my gut that was going to help us, but I had no money, and it scared the crap out of me, and I sat there with a guy who I've come to know very well over the years because I'm in another version of their mastermind, and he was like, Joe, I know you well enough now to know that you need this and you want this. And I was like, I know. And I full on broke down. And I think it was about 10 grand. I was like, and I just haven't got it. I haven't got it. And my colleague who works with me on Poor Education, she was like, Joe, you need this. You need to be surrounded by these people because these are going to get you out of this fear stage you're in. And I can see it's fear. And I was shaking and I had like my stress rash and I'm like, oh my God. And I just said, oh God, just charge the card. Just charge it. I've got a credit card. It's got a 10 grand limit on it. It's not 0%. It's fucking ridiculous. Like APR thingy on it. And I'm like, just charge the fucking card. And then go away. And then, so they did it. And honest to God, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. Even though technically I'm in a worse situation now, I'm like 10 grand down. I've got 6 grand going out a month with not that much money coming in and probably only like a month and a half's worth of savings technically from the remortgage. That's the situation we was in. And then I said to you, you need to do this as well because it's the joint business. So can you also give me like 10 grand so we can go all in? And you were like, yeah, okay, cool, here you go. And I was like, okay. But off we went and then there we are. But yeah, that fear, Jesus Christ, that was scary. But I knew deep down it was going to work and we were going to be surrounding ourselves with people that we needed to be around. And it's not a decision I regret at all. I knew as soon as I'd made it, I needed to make it. Even though my body went into shock. Like I say, I was shaking, I was crying, all of that. I just couldn't do it, but I knew it was the right thing to do. And we're already looking at how can we make that investment, which is now double.
Yeah.
for next year.
Yeah, it's got it. But I was with you. I just trusted the whole thing, and you were saying how amazing it was, and I was like, do you know what? If it's that amazing, then we need to do it. And it comes back to like what we invested for the podcast. And the other thing that was making me hesitant then was that how many other people did it? There weren't that many other people that invested. And I was going, there was a lot of people in that room that day. And I was looking around going, well, why isn't everyone else doing it? That's the other thing. It was that comparing us to everyone else and going, well, if it's that brilliant, why isn't everybody signing up for it?
Fear.
Yeah. But why was I doing that? Because if we really wanted to do it, does it matter what anyone else thinks?
Yeah, it shouldn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Should it?
But it does, doesn't it? It creeps in all the time. Like, you compare yourself to others all the time. And then again, this to me is where when you surround yourself with... So if on that day when I signed up, if my colleague hadn't have been there going... And by the way, she is the most risk-averse person I've ever met. She belongs in that camp where she's like, oh my gosh, no, you can't do that. I mean, she's amazing, but yeah, she's not the type of person that would go and make that type of investment. So for her to actually have my back in that situation, I was like, I needed that. I needed that shove. Now, if I had had that same conversation with, I don't know, let's say a good old mummy dearest, there is no way in hell she would have validated that decision for me. She would have validated the fear.
Yeah.
And in fact, there would have been a lot of people that I could talk to that would have validated that fear and gone, wow, you haven't got it. There is no way you've got it. And even Darren to a degree, and Darren is really supportive, and he knows I spend a lot of money on like CPD and everything for business and self-development. But at that time where we were, he was even a bit wobbly and going like, fucking hell, Joe, this is tight. What are you doing?
And if you've got that, is a bit of doubt, then...
Yeah. Which is why I knew, because I've done all this work and I'm very aware of who I surround myself with, I knew if I spoke to any of those people and asked for permission, because that's what we're doing, isn't it? It's like you're looking for that validation. It wouldn't have worked and I wouldn't have done it. And then there is no way we would be here today.
No.
Not a chance in hell being able to do all the amazing stuff that we're doing and helping all the people that we're helping. We wouldn't have been able to do any of this, which is our purpose in life. This is what we were meant to do because of fear.
Yeah. And also it's knowing that it's the right path, and having had that big investment, having made that big investment, we're even more determined to make it back, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're more determined to make this work, to get our messaging out, to I don't know, it's made us have to do it even more. Like, we were going to do it anyway, but it's given us that kick up the backside that's going to make us do it even better.
Yeah. It's almost that bit of accountability, isn't it? Because we even tried to, I don't know how you'd phrase it. We almost tried to cut all the corners, didn't we? Oh, yeah. So certainly with the podcast, it's like, oh, we could do that ourselves. Just it's fine. We'll half-arse it.
And then, but learning from the course that we went on, we know that you can't just half-arse it, because if you try and do that and you try and just bring out the odd ad hoc podcast, it doesn't work. So we need to make sure it's regular. We need to make sure it's professional as it can be.
Yeah.
We need to make sure it's reliably, like, keeping us on track. And I know that we wouldn't have done that if we'd have done it on our own.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, I think there's a bit of, you can almost cross over this a little bit. So I'm sure you would have felt it at one point. I've definitely felt it when I've been in those scenarios where there is an upsell to a big thing and all of that. You know, it's quite a common approach to everything. And you're like, oh, am I just going to get got here? Because you're really awesome at what you're doing. Of course you've like articulated this perfect little 3-day course into a big upsell. Of course you have. It makes sense. And that fear pattern plays in of, well, there is no way I'm going to do that because you're really good at sales and that's why you've got me in. And arguably, that same thought process could creep up when you are looking to really improve and enhance the services that you're offering, whether that's increasing the fee or just changing how you deliver it. That thought process of, oh, well, maybe a potential client's then going to look at me and go, well, you know, how dare you do all of that stuff when I can go and get that for this off someone? But it's fear telling you that story.
Yeah.
Because the client's not thinking that, or the potential client's not thinking that. Some might, but a lot aren't. But it's that story from fear, because that's your pattern of thinking that you're now executing on somebody else.
Yeah. And that was absolutely me on that third day. I said to you before the pitch comes, I was like, no way. We are not doing this. And you were like, okay, Vicky, okay, we're not going to do it. And then Jo does this really
oh God.
She does this thing when I know that she wants something, and she keeps looking. Well, first of all, she looks at me, and she's sat on this side of me, and she keeps looking at me, and I'm purposefully not looking back at her. And then she's got this thing where if you're watching this, you'll see she's tapping my leg, and I'm like, I'm not looking at her. I'm not looking at her because I know exactly what's going to come. And people on the table that we're sat with are looking at us they can see there's something going on, and I'm just like this. I'm folding my arms, I'm looking away. And she was like, so we need to, I was like, no, literally talk to the hat, don't even try. Of course. And I said all of those things you've just said. They're amazing at what they do. Of course they're going to try and get us to do it. Mm-hmm. We could do it. It's all good. And she's going, how are we going to do it? How are we going to have the time to do it? We can't do it. We're not podcast editors and producers. We're not going to be able to do it. We're dog trainers. We're people who help people with their businesses. It's not what we do. And then, yeah, it all sunk in that everything she says is right. She's usually right. Most things. I was like, yeah, you are right. And then we had that real, lay it on the line. If we don't do this investment, this is all a waste of time. There is absolutely no point us having done this course because we won't do it ourselves. Yeah. Will we?
Yeah.
And there was a big pause and a lot of putting my head in my hands from me.
I think we actually played it out as well, though. We were like, right,
yeah,
okay, so this is where we're at the moment. So let's hit pause. And because I think this was day 2, wasn't it? And there was a third day left. 2. So day 2, we spent the afternoon. So I'd had my little tantrum and ripped up the thing. You'd had your cry and breakdown, and then we just put it all to one side, let the course resume. We were going to go out on the piss that night. We were going to go and have a few drinks.
It was Christmas.
It was Christmas, yeah. We were like, no, come on. But we didn't. We did have a few drinks, but we did it in the hotel bar instead with our laptops. And we thought, right, let's actually play this out. And we played it out by actioning things. So it was like, right, let's act like we've got this amazing podcast and we've got this amazing business that we want, that we're so passionate about, and we can see the message so clear. Let's play it out. And we spent the next 5 hours just cracking on with getting some stuff done. And before you knew it, we were like, boom, got this person, boom, got this person. This has opened up loads of conversations with people. And because we went all in, we played full out, we were like, let's do it. We've proven the concept before it even started.
We had no podcast. We had no name for it. We had no real idea of the content at that point. Mm-hmm. But we'd got 5 or 6 guests that said yes that day.
Yep. And we were like, no, we're going to do this because we were so clear on that vision. We were like, no, we're going to do this. And fear cannot hold us back on this now because we played it out. So it was
and that's what made us do it, isn't it?
Yeah. But no, and then it makes you laugh, doesn't it? Then because when you look at the big extremes of that, and then when we look back on our training businesses and then go, oh my God, I was so scared to take out 3 training sessions. I know. And now look at the sums of money we spend on investment and the things that we're committed to that we still don't have answers to on how we're going to pay all these bills.
No.
But we're doing it because fear is not going to hold us back. And on the other side of fear, I do genuinely believe that amazing things can happen. You can choose to stay in fear. And I think if you are, it's going to sound a bit weird, but I think if you are experiencing bodily things going on, like the stress attacks and the cries and the stress rashes, and your body is in that fight-flight mode, you know you want something.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, just whatever that is, see what's on the other side of it.
Yeah. Gives me that sick feeling.
Because if you stay there, well, that's all you're ever going to get.
Yeah.
But if you want something more, you've got to go out and find it.
Yeah.
And you've got to see what's on the other side of fear.
And if we'd have done it half-assed, it would have been half-assed. And, you know, so far it's been amazing, the feedback.
Yeah. And I think this ties in quite nicely with, we was doing a training the other day, wasn't we, about your purpose and the vision for your business. And I think if we didn't have that vision and purpose in this business, you don't ever want to explore what's on the other side of fear. And actually, I don't think your body would have the same fight or flight response because you don't want it enough.
It wouldn't be worth it. What you'd have to go through to get the other side wouldn't be worth having, would it?
Yeah.
So you know it's got to be worth something if you're willing to put yourself in that really out of comfort zone position and scary, unknown, don't know if we'll be able to do this. But if you have the attitude, we can do this and we will do this, then it will happen.
So we've had lots of conversations recently as well with people who are considering going all in on doing their training businesses and either leaving a full-time job or, you know, just that switch over of something somewhere. Or there's big events coming up that you're thinking, oh, I'll wait till the event's finished. Again, it's that whole, maybe it's a bit of a morbid view, but I'm like, there is no time like the present. And for me personally, and this is it's my own personal view, it's how I've approached everything in life. If I feel strongly enough that I have put an inquiry in somewhere on anything, clearly I want it. Like my subconscious brain is saying, you need to explore this. So if I put the brakes on something that I have actively sought out, for me personally, that makes no sense for how I know I am.
Yeah.
And I question myself all the time going like, it's fear stopping me. It's crept up again. Like, hello, fear, bugger off. Let me deal with you later. But sometimes fear will help you. It will hit pause when
it's necessary
needed.
Sometimes, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It stops you making absolutely ridiculous decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the time the fear is so ingrained in us that we need to push it back a little bit.
Yeah.
So there are people who are never going to do what we did.
No.
There were so many people that would never even entertain that amount of money. But for us, we knew it was worth it. But for someone else, it might be just more money than what they're used to. And it's just a big amount in one go, but nowhere near that same amount. So that's still pushing things and that's still pushing fear away.
It's having a conversation with fear and going right, okay, so what...
That's good.
I know, yeah.
I like this.
I know. Have a conversation with it and go, right, what are we scared of? Where has that showed itself before? Because it will be a repeating thing.
Yeah.
How did it serve you? I think that's a really good question to ask it. Because if it served you, well, it's going to keep creeping up again. So all these things that you do with your dog training clients, ta-da, do them with yourself. If that dog's acting a certain way, guess what? They've learned that habit. They've learned that's been reinforced somewhere. So how have you reinforced fear in your life? How has it kept you safe? And what has it stopped you from doing?
Yeah. It does stop you doing a lot.
Yeah. And I think it will show itself a lot as well in terms of the fear of putting yourself out there. So again, a lot of people are saying they don't really want to put themselves out there on social media. They're scared of what people are going to say. Again, that is keeping you safe. But then what's the stronger pull? The message you're wanting to put out or the fear of potentially a negative comment?
But also with that, play it in your mind again.
Yeah.
What if? So if you're live on Facebook, what's the actual driving fear? You mess up your words. Right, okay. Someone comes into the room that's not supposed to come into the room and you fall over. Funny. It's life. It shows you. It shows you're just a normal human being.
Yeah.
You can pick yourself back up from it. If you try and cover it up and pretend it didn't happen, that's going to make you look worse. So just acknowledge the fact that it's happened. Oh, God. Oh, I've forgotten what I was going to say. Right, let's think of something else to talk about instead. So play out all of the worst things that could happen.
Yep.
Someone who goes on a stage, walks up and falls over. Like, you can come back from that.
Yeah.
It's not life or death, is it? No. So it's almost like doing that in some scenarios and going, okay, what is the one thing I'm scared about? Let's bring it to the surface. Let's acknowledge it. Let's try and think of a way that we could overcome it if it did happen.
Yeah.
So it's like these podcasts, isn't it? Like when we first started doing these, we were like, oh my God. We are still very scared about doing the intros and outros. So we do have like numerous takes of that. But it's what's the worst that could happen. At the end of the day, this is edited. Things can be cut out. And like...
It's us.
It's us, and it's never that bad anyway.
Yeah.
So I just think there's nothing really like resulting in anything really bad the other end if it is the worst that could happen.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way I look at it now.
I think another way I see fear play out in dog trainers is I think there is this thing where I do personally think that everybody needs to increase their fees. And I'm not saying that that's an easy thing to do. There obviously needs to be a million other things that need to happen around that. It is not a case
just tell
at all of
someone to
going,
do that.
increase your fees, it's all going to be perfect. Absolutely not. That is not the solution. But it is part of a bigger strategic plan.
Yeah.
But if you are scared of increasing your fees, what is it you're scared of again? It's like, oh, people won't think I'm worth it. Well, people won't think you're worth it if you don't think you're worth it. And if you think that you are offering a shitty value service, don't increase your fees then. It's like everything has to work coherently. It has to work together. But that is a big thing of like, or even, I can't possibly go into a niche area because then I'm going to lose lots of customers. But you're losing customers that you haven't got anyway because they're not with you.
You haven't lost them because you never had them.
No, yeah, exactly. So yeah, fear will stop you from doing things, and it will. I think sometimes it causes you to make stupid decisions as well. So like going back to that time when all that remortgage thing and everything was going on, honest to God, I would be lying if I did not say I need to go and get a proper job. I need to go and ask my old corporate boss if he'll have me back in and I can get my 60k salary back.
Did that
entered my mind?
Head, did it?
Because the fear was so strong with the kids, trying to look after Darren as well, and, you know, trying to make sure that because I've always felt really guilty that he's had the stable job and I've, you know, I hate the word allowed. It's not like a thing, but you know, he's given me the opportunity to go and do all of this stuff. And I know he's hated his job and it's made me feel really crap that he's stuck in it. So it's that staple bit of income coming in the background. And even though arguably, like we both know that I can bring in more because when you're self-employed, you've got the opportunity to bring that. He can't work any more hours and he's not going to earn any more money for it because it's capped. So I've always wanted it to be that he can go and do his thing. You know, we're going down that home education route. So I need to make sure that, you know, how am I going to work all these things? And I didn't want it to be that the kids, we can't do all of these things. It's like I wanted to be able to go on holiday and do the nice things with the boys. And all I could see in front of me was, I don't know how we're going to make this happen. I really don't know how we're going to make this happen. I'm not going to be able to work. Because then actually, even going back to the corporate job, I don't know how I would have made that work because that would have been a
tie of your time.
That would have been like a 60-hour work week minimum going back into that world. And yes, okay, the money would be there, but then the childcare fees would have gone up. Arguably, I would have had to put the kids in school because how can I home ed if I'm in a full-time job at that level? And Darren's the same. Who's going to have kids? Oh, we'll have to do the free childcare of school.
So not only would you have been in a job that you don't really want to be in, you'd have not seen your kids and you'd have paid probably as much money out as you were getting in.
Yep.
So what would have been the benefit?
Yeah, nothing at all. And all of that was circling in my head of like, I cannot do this. Like, we've got no money, we've got no money, we've got no money. That's all I could think about. And it is bloody scary because you make stupid decisions.
And this is where you mentioned earlier about people who were in full-time employment and wanted to leave to do the dog training full time. So they might do dog training part-time, evenings and weekends, but then they're consuming their whole week then, because if they're still in full-time employment, they've got evenings and weekends doing dog training. You probably don't see your family at all anyway.
And I did that.
Yeah. And then you've got to go, we've spoken to a couple of people recently who are in that, I really want to do it. And kind of that's why they've signed up with us, actually, is to get that, how do I do this the best way possible? How do I put that strategy in place so it doesn't fail? Because it's that buy full-time secure job, hello, I don't know when I'm getting the next person in type jumping off a cliff scenario, isn't it? And I get that and I see it. But again, you've got to, if you don't ever do that jump, it's never going to change.
You are never, ever going to be able to create that perfect moment. And
it's never going to be there, is it?
It's never there.
It's never going to be there.
And I remember when we were talking about having kids and stuff, and anybody out there who's got kids, you do have that conversation of like, oh, right, okay, so when's a good time?
Yeah.
Like, I don't fucking know. I don't really know what to expect from having a kid. I've never had one before. Maybe it's like having a puppy. Who knows? I'll take 2 weeks off. It's fine. But you don't know. And things happen and you move around it and...
It doesn't play out how you planned.
It never plays out because you're never going to know because you've never done it before. You never know what the next day is going to bring. So
in an ideal world, you'd have your 5-day full-time job that went to 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day over a period of 6 months that you can build in your training business.
Coming in, that you're filled up on those other days, and like
it's just never going to happen. Like
it doesn't work that way.
You have to make the leap, or you've just got to do something to go. And again, it's a bit like us with back to that podcast investment. Buy a full-time job now. I mean, I've got no choice. I have to make this as brilliant as it can possibly be and work for my life as best it possibly can.
Yeah.
And again, that's where we kind of come in to give the strategy and to help people with that confidence to do it and also give the clarity on it as well.
Yeah.
So.
And to also know, and I think this is important because one of our values is that we are open and transparent about everything. So everybody knows that we've got our own individual training businesses. And since the launch of this business going as big as it has done, super quick, we've had a wobble, haven't we?
I know what you're going to say. I know exactly where this is going.
We have wobbled on what to do with those two separate businesses because they are time consuming and we don't want to half-ass anything that we're doing. And I'm in a situation where the staff member that I've got, she's decided that actually she no longer wants to do that journey anymore. So she'll be parting ways with me in a few months' time, which I'm really grateful for her supporting me over the next few months. And that sent us into a state of fear as well, didn't it? Because again, like I've still got these $6,500 bills each month to pay. And I'm like, fuck, I've now got no one able to deliver the training side in a month's time because all of our energy is on the podcast and Canine Business Academy and growing that. And we've now got all these debts essentially to pay with the investments that we've made. And what do we do? Because like our time is taken away from that. And I think you were in a state of fear with it as well, weren't you? And then it makes me go fearful and thinking, oh my God, is she fully in on this when you're trying to do that?
And I brought it back to that, the jack of all trades thing, when you're trying to offer too many services to too many different people. And I felt we were reverting back to that. We were doing a bit of this, a bit of the podcast, a bit of Canine Business, a bit of, Canine Connections, a bit of Poor Ed. And I didn't want to spread myself too thin because I'm like, the service is not going to be good if I'm having to keep dipping in and out like this.
Yeah.
So we've had a serious word with ourselves, haven't we?
Yeah, and we've put plans in motion now on combining those two businesses into one, and we are now functioning together in that world and doing some delivery, but we've changed how we're offering things. Yeah. We've stripped everything back and we are looking at different types of services. So we've not landed on anything concrete, but we've got a plan that we're executing at the moment and we've worked through the fear of it. I think
it's been a lot. But if it wasn't me, it was you. It would go swinging back and forth.
Yeah, like a bleeding roller coaster, wasn't it? Like drive each other insane. It's like, I thought we dealt with this. No.
Hang on, there's another 5-minute voice note that I need to listen to. What now? Well, we said it was going to be this. Oh no.
fear reared its head again. But no, it's a journey. And again, our value, open and transparent and honest. So, you know, we'd be lying if we said that we haven't gone through fear with everything that we're doing.
We'd love to say that we're these amazing business people that know exactly what we're doing all the way through
perfect.
it.
But, you know, we are normal human beings that are testing and trialing things, and we know what works, and we're sharing that information. And yeah, okay, we're in a new realm now where technically we've got 3 businesses under our hood, and now we're trying to figure out how we can do that. So we are looking to grow our team as well. And all of that is new territory to a degree, because we're in 6-figure thinking mode business wise, not sub 6-figure, and it changes. And that's where we've not been before. We've not been over that threshold.
It's unknown, really, isn't it?
So we're on that journey, and that's the whole point of us doing this, is so we can share everything with you, so you know that we're on the ride.
We're raw and real, and we're with you. Yeah.
So then, what would you say a top tip is, or how have you dealt with fear then, so we can wrap up this episode?
I think for me, entering into the world of realising how much value is in self-development and mindset and belief, self-belief, and acknowledging but then dismissing when it's appropriate those limiting beliefs. And that is nothing about just going, right, I'm going to just bury those things for good. It's like those things are always going to rear up, and I've now got the skills to be able to just push them to one side and go, no, you might try and knock me down, but I know that it's not going to do that anymore to me. And if I didn't have all of that resilience and all of that personal development work and growth work, I wouldn't be where I am now. So I think for me, that's the biggest tip I could tell anybody to have, is to look at the importance of that. If you want to change your business and you want to get out of the rut that you're in, you have to do work on yourself first.
Yeah, it's important, isn't it? I think mine is when you don't know the answer to something, or when you feel fear starting to come in and say hello, go and find people that are above where you are now and talk to them. Do not talk to people that are not doing what you are trying to do. Do not talk to people that are on the same level as you. Like, they have to have gone through something and come out the other side. Because you will get lots of learnings from them, and they will be the ones that inspire you to do more. Because otherwise you're surrounding yourself with people that are going to validate all of your concerns, and you won't move forward.
Push.
You won't make a decision. You'll just decide to stay stuck.
Yeah, amazing. Loved it. Okay, thanks so much everyone for listening to this episode, and if you liked it, don't forget to follow, share, and give us a little review.